I don't want to do this. It's bad for my mental health. It almost seems like the language that psychotherapy created is now being used to excuse bad behavior. As Rwandans or as Africans, there's a way we relate to each other. There's a way we relate to community. We're starting to see certain language being used that is almost against the values of the societies we live in.
Rwandan culture is not, you don't go off and talk.
Especially to your elder.
Or talk about things that are your business.
When I first heard of you and the work that you're doing, it was because of a word that I saw that was associated with your name. That was this word, ketamine. Our society, as Rwandans and even probably Africans, we're not very comfortable with drugs.
What we're talking about is a medical intervention. There are conditions for which this is really appropriate. I'm thinking about, for example, treatment-resistant depression, trauma, suicidality. When you or someone you know is in that place, yes, come to the ketamine clinic.
Ozempic was supposed to be for one purpose. It was supposed to be to help people fight diabetes.
That's right. And then it became for weight loss.
Not just weight loss, they call it looks maxing.
What fuels my need to brain max?
Performance.
It means that I feel somehow less than. Can we talk about that feeling?
But no one wants to do that work. Why don't we talk about traditional African plant medicines with the same knowledge, the same respect? When you think about our ancestors, weren't they rewiring their consciousness long before Silicon Valley?
100%.
This is the very, very best. I introduce the very, very next. Big deal. You know this is the big league. Unsanga mumihanda ya Kigali make a big fish. Word on the street turakaze. Habari gani mumeze mte. Yute shimi mana kuva honda muchiye. If you want the long form, come close and rabule. Wait, what?
The long form.
What did he say?
The long form.
What?
The long form.
The long form. The long form. Hello there. My guest this week on the Long Form podcast is Dr. Lisa Ndejuru. She is a researcher, psychotherapist, and clinician at the King Faisal Hospital Ketamine Treatment and Research Center in Kigali. Her work bridges mental health care, community-based healing practices, and psychedelic-assisted therapies. What if we could reboot the brain the way we reboot a phone? Ketamine used to be a party drug. Now it's being used to treat depression. Elon Musk says he uses it. Silicon Valley is funding psychedelic clinics. Meanwhile, young Africans are self-medicating with marijuana and alcohol. So here's the question. Can we really rewire the brain? Or are we just rebranding drugs as healing? Let's talk about drugs, power, science, and what healing actually means. This conversation is brought to you by Akagera Medicines, a biotech company that is majority owned by the Rwandan people. Akagera Medicines is not only committed to expanding access to healthcare, but also supporting conversations that inform, educate, and empower. Learn more about Akagera Medicines by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting their website at akageramedicines.com. Hey everyone, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you who've been a part of the long-form journey. Every view, comment, and subscription has helped us grow and get to where we are today. But here's the thing, about 72% of the people who actually watch this podcast haven't subscribed yet. We want to keep bringing you even bigger conversations with even bigger guests, including, let's say, even the president of this country. But this milestone starts with you. Subscribing is free, but it makes a huge difference. It shows our guests that what we're building here matters and that it's worth their time appearing on my platform. So please help us and hit that subscribe button, and we'll promise to keep delivering powerful, meaningful conversations. Thank you so much. Now, let's get into the episode. Dr. Lisa.
Yes.
Ndejuru,
Yes.
welcome to the Long Form Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm just going to go straight to the meat of this discussion, which is mental health and how people deal with challenges and whether or not how we're dealing with those challenges is a positive or a negative. So if and when a 25-year-old young man, young lady starts feeling lost or depressed, is giving them medication treating the illness or protecting them from the discomfort they need to feel?
Okay, so discomfort or distress is not illness necessarily, right? What you're looking for is to see what's going on. You're looking for duration. You're looking for intensity. You're looking for how does it impact functionality of the person, right? Is the person available to their life? Can they do what they need to do, what they want to do, or can't they? And if, sometimes distress or struggles can be something that is like a challenge, that is something that you measure up yourself up against. But if you get into suffering where a person is impaired for
what do you mean by suffering?
Like,
what's that line?
Like, for example, if I can't get up in the morning, or if everything seems, right? Everything, like, I don't want to see people anymore. I feel like I can't burden people. Like, I feel like I'm a burden and I can't burden people. I'm stuck in, like, meaning becomes difficult. When it's like a funnel, it goes down like this. In the beginning, you have lots of opportunities, possibilities, and then as you go down, you ruminate, and thoughts become thoughts of, like, here I'm talking about depression, like thoughts become thoughts of guilt or shame, or they become very harsh. And then as they become harsher, you ruminate and it goes down, 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 down. If you can't function anymore, if you can't work anymore, if you can't be with people anymore, if living become, for a mammal, we're mammals, to say, okay, life, there's a switch, right? If living is not
sweet,
well, sweet is like a next level, but if you're thinking about, is there an exit? That's
when discomfort goes into something else.
Then that's like a signal where you're like, okay, ça ne va pas. It's not okay. Things are not okay. Let's get curious, right?
Because very often we equate suffering or discomfort with the human condition, that I'm human, therefore I will suffer. That does not necessarily mean I am ill. Listen, I know just how annoying it is when, just in the middle of a really interesting conversation on YouTube, an ad appears. That frustration is why we've created the Longform Patreon. For just $4 a month, you can enjoy ad-free listening, early access to conversations a full day before they're publicly released, and you're directly supporting the work that we do here. Every episode takes time, research, and sometimes plane tickets. We don't do it for money. We do it because we genuinely believe in sharing stories and conversations that matter. If you want to be part of that journey, you can join the Longform Patreon by scanning the QR code that you can see right now on the screen, or using the link in the description. And if membership is too much of an investment, you can still support us by making a one-time donation via our MTN Momo using the code registered under LF Media 95462. Thank you so much for believing in what we do.
No, it doesn't mean I'm ill. You can suffer. Suffering, and suffer. There are many different traditions, right? Like in religious terms, suffering has, you can make meaning out of suffering. I don't necessarily think that all suffering is meaningful, right? When it stops helping you grow, when it keeps you down and grinds you down, it's not necessary. It's not necessary suffering. If it's treatable, let's do it.
Let's talk about how people treat their suffering. One of the things that you'll see young people self-medicate with is marijuana, daily marijuana use, or daily alcohol use. And it's we almost call it self-care. It helps me go back to myself. Is that daily marijuana use, or that daily couple of beers self-care, or is it self-destruction dressed up as wellness?
So I think we have to be really careful, when we say medicate, self-medicate. I'm like, I think it depends on what is the function and what is the result. Am I more able to be present? And there we have to be honest with ourselves, right? Am I more able to be present, or am I avoiding feeling, living, relationships, work, worry, right? And if it's avoidance, or if it's, if it doesn't get you, if you're not confronting what you need to confront, it's not helping. And the problem with these kinds of things is that sometimes it's just, I don't know what is it, like a moment, and then sometimes it becomes its own problem.
Here's a question. What are your secrets worth? And how far will you go to protect them? Every day, tens of thousands of hacked credentials for emails, social media, and other services are bought and sold on the dark web, all without victims suspecting a thing. If you're like me and desire some peace of mind, Threat Informant is for you. Built by Shield Tech Hub, a cybersecurity company, Threat Informant is a dark web monitoring online solution that allows you to search the deep web for hidden markets, detect your leaked data, and react before any damage is done. And here is the best part. It's available for government agencies, businesses, and individuals like myself. It's simple. If your data is out there, Threat Informant will let you know. So take control of your digital safety today and scan the QR code that you can see on your screen, or click the link in the description to sign yourself and your entire organization up. You cannot protect yourself if you don't know you're under threat. Get Threat Informant today.
Right? Like, let's say, for example, I struggle with sleeping. I take a glass of something, beer, wine, whatever. I feel like I relax. I sleep better. Alcohol is a depressor, right? So it helps me, for example, with it lowers inhibitions. Like, for example, if I feel shy in social circumstances, I drink, I feel less shy because it lowers inhibitions. But if I drink and I drink and I drink, and my focus becomes, I'm looking for, I have to make sure that I have a drink, then it like the focus shifts towards the thing itself. And then you have the initial problem, and then you created another problem, right? And sometimes it's also expensive.
Let's talk about, there's something that, I'm slightly older than a lot of my listeners or people who consume the long form. There's this language of psychotherapy that has become, when I was 15, 18, 25, 30, we did not talk about wellness and self-medication. Those were not words that were in our dictionary. Do you think that the way that society today uses those words and uses the words that, you as psychotherapists kind of have owned, doesn't the use of those words and those ideas, are we not losing the real values of those words? Are people misusing them? Are they using them as excuses to pretty much excuse bad behavior? I don't want to do this. It's bad for my mental health. I need to consume this. Unless I do this, I can't operate, self-care. If I do not want to be in a family function, maybe because I don't necessarily want to be there for a family wedding, it's self-care. It almost seems like the language that psychotherapy created is now being used to excuse bad behavior.
I don't know. I'm a fan of the more people know about therapy, psychotherapy, mental health, the more people are fluent in that kind of language, the better it is for them when they want to advocate for themselves, right? Like, to know what is going on with me, what are the questions that I'm going to ask myself if something is going on, how am I going to get curious, and what am I looking for? But also, if I'm faced with someone, with a professional, if I go and seek help, is that person helping me? Like, is that person, do I feel like this is serving me, right? The more I know, the more I find it really interesting when people know more, right? Like, I know, like, there's a lot of people that are like, oh gosh, a lot of professionals that would be like, my patient, my client went to Dr. Google and now they know all the things, right? And I'm thinking, I think it's not a bad idea to know more about things, right? Now, excusing bad behavior, who says what is bad behavior? I don't know. I'm very cautious about that. Yeah.
Well, let's say, for example, in terms of bad behavior, and so again, goes back to the way we use the certain language, right? Mental health, and this is for my mental health, and or it makes me happy, and sometimes and it's been my experience a few times, is that people will, I feel, weaponize that language to get what they want, to get out of things that are not necessarily even a bad thing, or they will justify bad behavior, how they treat people, selfishness. As Rwandans or as Africans, there's a way we relate to each other. There's a way we relate to community. There's a way we relate to our parents, our siblings, our loved ones. That's been built over time. And we're starting to see certain language being used that is almost against the values of the societies we live in.
I think it's beautiful. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm thinking about, for example, the idea of talking, right? Like, Rwandan culture is not you don't go off and talk.
Especially to your elders.
Oh, or talk about things that are your business and your family's business. Like, how do you? No, we don't have to say things, but so that comes and rubs up against the idea of, are there spaces that we can create where the person can express what is needed to be expressed in order to make the person, I was going to say feel better, but like be better. It's like it's in a healing context, right? It's not everything for everything. It's like things are not okay. I'm not okay. What do I need to do to be okay? Right? And then we need to have frameworks, right? It's not everything goes. It's like there's an assessment. There's a container. There's a relationship. There's things that you can expect. There's things that I can expect. There's consent. There's a whole structure around it. It's not random. It's not sound bites on social media. It's a process, right? If somebody comes to see me, something is not okay, and I can ask a question. If we work well together, what's going to have changed, right? They're looking for something. They're looking, and it's work, and it's not pleasant work necessarily, right? Feeling better is not going to be like, dancing in the meadows. It's like it's insight. It's looking at some things that can be difficult. It's maybe choosing to put some things aside, choosing other things. It can be, looking at things that happened that were really challenging.
Or traumatic.
And deciding, what do I do with this? How do I carry it going forward? Right? How do I live with that? And how do I build with that? How do I create the life that? So it's not like it's not a random thing. It's a structured thing.
You've talked about, the people who come to you. Now, the reason why when I first heard of you and the work that you're doing, it was because of a word that I saw that was associated with your name. That was this word, ketamine. Now, for me, who is not in that psychotherapy world, ketamine, I think I first heard the word ketamine maybe a few years ago on some podcasts, and it was men trying to, these are the same men who would maybe use different kinds of what we call psychedelics to almost hack the brain and get them to a higher level of productivity. And so I heard the word ketamine being referred to by the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. And he was talking about how it allows him to, again, operate at that level that he wants to operate in. And so when I discovered that, there's a Rwandan doctor who's using this, because it almost sounded like a narcotic, right? So what is this? So when I heard that there's a Rwandan doctor who's using this thing that Elon Musk uses, I thought that was really interesting and strange, because again, I know our society as Rwandans and even probably Africans, we're not very comfortable with drugs. And so that's why I reached out to you, and I'm super happy that you're here. Before we get into how ketamine and how you use it in your practice, and whether I should be scared to death of this thing, maybe you can help.
Don't be scared to death of this thing.
Maybe you can help define the term. So, what is ketamine, and why is there some controversy around it? Hey, if you're tired of working hard, but never getting ahead financially, you need to start listening to the Money Blueprint podcast hosted by Isaac Musi. The Money Blueprint podcast isn't a get-rich-quick show. Isaac Musi, an expert in financial literacy with over 15 years of experience, shares practical tools that help you build discipline, make better decisions, and create real wealth. Out every Monday, the Money Blueprint podcast with Isaac Musi is on YouTube and all major audio platforms.
This podcast is brought to you by LF Media, home of great African podcasts.
It's interesting. When I started working with it, one of my really good friends was alarmed because she said,
Was she Rwandan?
no, she's German, and she said, but isn't that what veterinarians use on the cows? And I was like, oh, okay. And then well, it is used as an anesthetic. It's widely used as it's very old, like over 50 years of use. It's a molecule that is used in anesthesiology has been used for, I don't know, half a century. Very safe. People like infants are in surgery. It's used all the time, right?
To get them to fall asleep and not to feel the pain.
And so that use is known, it's common. We don't even talk about it, right? The use in psychiatry is very low doses, right? And it can be administered in different ways. At the Ketamine Training and Research Center at Faisal, where I am, we use it intravenously. And so it's administered.
So that's through drip.
Yeah, through, a nurse installs an IV, and there's a machine. It's milligrams. It's a dose of milligrams per your body weight that is discussed with the psychiatrist, right? So before you even enter, there is an assessment by a psychiatrist to see if there are contraindications. Is this the right thing for the person? Then there are medical labs to see if can the body handle it, and then there's psychological intake. It's a
process.
It's a very, very clear process.
It's interesting for me because when I did a bit of research on ketamine and its use by human beings, not animals, there was a time when it was illegal to actually use it, and it was almost stigmatized. But now hospitals use it.
Well, it's not a lifestyle thing, right? It's a medical treatment, right? It's an intervention.
Yeah. I want to know, because it wasn't always used by the medical field. It's certain things had to change. Did the science change, or did the narrative around it change?
You mean for ketamine-assisted therapy?
So yes. Has it always been a thing, or is it something that's because as you said, the molecule has always existed?
Has been used medically for a long time. Let's say in the context of psychedelic-assisted therapy, because to me the
psychedelic-assisted therapy.
Yes. What I mean is, for me, the treatment is not the ketamine. The treatment is the therapy. One of the tools to support the treatment is ketamine. It could be a different kind of medicine, right? If you're thinking about psychedelic more broadly, right? Some of them depends on where. There are different countries with different legal frameworks, right? Like, for example, in Australia, in Canada, in Switzerland, there are different ways in which, or different situation contexts in which you can use it. And it's very controlled, right? It's not anybody can just prescribe these medications, ketamine, MDMA, psilocybin, LSD, right? Not everybody can use it, but it's
Why are they so controlled?
Because there is recreational use of these things exist, right? And what you want to do is to, I mean, what I would like to see is proper frameworks, legal frameworks, proper training, proper for administration, but also integration, right? How do you work with these therapies, right? And then, yeah, that we're there. Yeah. Anyways, I was going to go somewhere else, but like the idea is that we're not looking at ketamine. We're looking at these. This is an innovation in mental health. There are not that many. There are some, but there are not that many. This is something that can make someone, for example, okay.
Walk me through a use case.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to, again, name.
Of course.
But, okay, this is what this person was like.
Yeah.
This is what the therapy looked like. And this was the result.
Mm-hmm. So knowing that it does not work every time, right? It's not a panacea for anything. It's one thing, right? So let's say, so the reason why ketamine is interesting is because it's fast acting, right? Let's in relationship, for example, with SSRIs, which are the usual sort of medication that is administered for depression, for example. SSRIs are going to modulate serotonin levels in the brain.
What are those? So when you talk about serotonins and all these things that brain modulation, what do you actually mean? What are our brains like when they're normal, right? So when I hate to use the word normal because that means someone else is abnormal, but for the average person, what do our brains look like? Because fundamentally, you're in the business of the human brain and trying to bring it back to what it should be. Maybe I don't know if I'm using the right words, but I guess someone goes to you because they're sick.
Yeah.
And
okay.
They
I have an image.
Mm.
I have an image. For example, and this is not like the brain. I was trying to see like the brain. No, but let's say we are made of associations, right? We have a trigger, and then we associate something positive or negative, right? We have thoughts, we have beliefs, we have ways in which we have pathways, right? We look at things, and our, let's say, worldview rests on thoughts and beliefs that we carry and that we rehearse, right? If they're rigid, they don't adapt to context. If we're healthy, they're flexible. Okay, let's say, I'll try again. If my defense system, let's say, is adapted or is flexible, if I see a threat, it goes up. If I don't see a threat, it doesn't need to be, I can be connecting, right? Uh-huh. If it's not working, I can be closed constantly. Uh-huh. But if I'm closed constantly, it means I can't get out. So nothing can come in, but I can't get out, right? Uh-huh. It limits me. It limits what can happen. Uh-huh. What we want to do is to be flexible. When something is actually a threat, that you can be protecting yourself. Uh-huh. But when there isn't, that you can be in relationship. Right? Mm-hmm. So that is what the idea is, right? If
that's the idea of therapy itself.
Well, when you were thinking about healthy, right? Like, let's say if I'm depressed, there are ideas, there are loops that are very, very rigid, and they can be true or not, right? Like, for example, someone says, I lost my parents very young. if I had had them, my life would be different, much easier. It's true, probably. I mean, there's very probable, but is it helping the person? Right?
To do what?
To create the life that they want to live.
That they could have lived.
That they
if their
could
parents-
live now. Right? Because you're working with the here and now. I'm working with the here and now.
So the parents did not exist in that scenario, right?
So the person is very, 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 very down, because what goes around and around and round in their mind is, if my life had been different, this would not. This
my reality would not be the way it is today.
Exactly. Right? So, and this belief has been rehearsed. It's been proven over and over, right? But we also have a bias, right? We have a way in which, when we hold something, we look for evidence for it, and we fortify it. It's strong. It has allowed us to do something, but it doesn't allow us to get to the next level. So, and this makes it so that the person is like, the feeling that this evokes is like, right? If you want to have a different feeling, this needs to be softer, needs to soften.
Or challenged.
Challenge, when you're resisting, you're just going to go stronger. It's not useful. You need safety, and you need the possibility that, what if it could be something different?
So back to my question about real use cases, right? So because I had asked, I think what you've tried to do is to explain a healthy brain versus an unhealthy one, right? So one is able to open and shut based off of external or internal stimuli.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
Right.
I'm not anatomically correct because the brain is not shutting down, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I had asked you about when, because we've heard about therapy quite a bit, right? It's a conversation that's becoming a bit more open here in Rwanda, and I think across Africa, and obviously around the globe. Now, again, back to my interest in having a conversation with you was that other word, ketamine, not therapy, because I'd heard about therapy. So I was really interested in understanding. You've explained, the molecule itself, right? So it's something that's been used
so it
for
promotes,
decades.
I'm going to tell you this thing. Ketamine is useful because it promotes neuroplasticity.
What is that? So what do you mean?
So if I have this belief, and it's so rigid, if I do talk therapy, how long am I going to do talk therapy until this loosens?
Maybe never.
I mean,
maybe it might never loosen.
We have, I was going to go with a lengthy period of time. It could be months, years, right? When ketamine allows this flexibility, it opens up, it promotes neuroplasticity. The possibilities become much more available to the person. It works, like rigid patterns become much more malleable,
open to
therapy,
thought,
to change.
To change.
Yes, voila. That is why it's interesting.
What?
But these different medicines do different things. Like if I'm thinking about MDMA, which is not yet.
MDMA is what is that?
I don't know what the perfect.
Yes, but what does it do?
It's it's something that opens I was going to say the heart. It's not the heart that opens, but it allows vulnerability. It allows, it opens up, right? So it's a different
It creates a different thing.
It creates a different thing.
But the
ketamine allows for a lot more flexibility and
that
something
hardness
yes,
to soften.
That's it.
So that
you make new connections that
allow you to actually hear maybe different ideas.
That's right.
Or to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
If you are trying your best to raise healthy children, but feel like you need clear, trustworthy advice, Healthy Beginnings podcast, hosted by Dr. Edgar Kalimba, is for you. With over a decade of experience caring for children and supporting the parents raising them, Dr. Edgar Kalimba shares practical knowledge grounded in science, but rooted in the lived experience of Africans. Out every Monday, Healthy Beginnings with Dr. Edgar Kalimba is on YouTube and all major audio platforms.
This podcast is brought to you by LF Media, home of great African podcasts.
Why does it do that? What is it about that substance? And, who was the first person to think,
let's do that.
Let me ingest this
yes.
and see what happens.
Yes, I think it came out of experiences where people used ketamine in surgery and anesthesia, and they realized that patients who had depression were feeling better.
So it was by mistake, pretty much. They used it for one thing and then
realized, and then it gets more precise. The way it works, it works with the glutamate receptors in the brain, but really, I'm not going to go into the brain.
But pretty much what it kind of sounds like
the way it's felt, the experience of it is like it's like a bit of it, almost like a dream, right?
Have you ever used it? Have you ever tried
Myself, no. I've worked with other medicines, but not that. Mm-hmm.
So you're saying something about the experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that scare me about anything that is there to create connections in the brain, whether it's ketamine or other psychedelics, is the idea that you can almost rewire the brain. You can, as you said, that thing that's been really, really concrete, something comes and softens.
I like the word rigid. I think about when I'm hearing is as though, it's the kind of thing that people are afraid of with hypnosis, for example, right? Somebody's going to tell me what.
But not even the scary part of it, but even especially when you're thinking about high performance individuals and this and this and that, and you're talking about these psychedelics help me rewire my brain. Is it even the words rewire, is it actually scientific reality, or is it maybe even just marketing language? Marketeers love
hype.
Hype.
We're not talking about hype right now. What we're talking about, and we're not talking about lifestyle, right? People can take all kinds of substances with lifestyle choices, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is a medical intervention in a framework. There are conditions for which this is really appropriate. I'm thinking about, for example, treatment-resistant depression, trauma, right? Suicidality, right? Those are the kinds of things that are. It's not a random thing for everything. It's in those cases, this could be a good tool to support therapy. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about productivity.
But then maybe but let's go there, right? There would be an interesting conversation around that, right? So, because very often what people will do
Mm.
is it will start here, and it will the same way as you explained, right? Ketamine was used for one thing,
Mm-hmm.
then human beings found it does this, and then knowing human beings will keep moving the needle.
That's
And
so interesting. No,
that's what I mean, that's what human beings do,
well, I mean, we're talking about
right?
research. We're talking about
Mm,
medical treatment.
mm,
That's not how this works.
mm.
Yeah, but okay, let's go there.
Let's go to that.
Okay.
First of all, the idea of brain rewiring, is it, can these psychedelics rewire a brain? Or is it possible? Is it something that we should worry about? Because again,
Worry about in what way?
in terms of, I again, it might be very, Terminator 2000, thinking, what will happen when, if this and this and then this and this and this happens. As one of the things that you always I think about
Hmm.
is, where does it start, and what are the scenarios that will take it to another level?
Hmm.
It's not just, I'm more interested just in for my own curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
The language of some of these things is very like spooky or very sci-fi, and maybe you'll just come and just tell me that, Sunny, this is everything that you think is
Well,
it's not it's
to
not
me, I'm
founded
thinking
it's not
it's like
founded
it's to me it's like it's
on
actually
science.
really very much more boring than that.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
it's not abstract or the whole thing. It's really a treatment within a context,
mm,
right? It's not at all like, if you think about traditional sort of medicines, for example, right, that are now used in all kinds of ways. These were framed within sort of tradition, lineage, community, worldview. Like there are structures around it. It's not abstract. We've always, the idea is to give ourselves tools to live better. So does it help us to live better? And now, what is living better? For me, it's if the person is available to their life, present, able to be present, to be able to be, in relationship with other people. This idea of Cuba, Cubajo, Cubana.
what do you mean?
To be here now, right? Present, the quality of time and place, to be with others, with the other, wherever, however one is spiritually sort of grounded, right? Am I able to live a good life where I make a contribution, where I'm proud of myself, where I'm good? That's the purpose. If we're going in a different direction, that's a whole nother, that's not my business. Ça c'est pas, that's not what I do. I'm not interested in recreational youth. I'm not interested in that. I'm not having any kind of discourse about it, but that's not what I do. That's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is the capacity of these medicines to get us where we need to go faster. We have these incredible, especially here in this country, these complex ruptures, right? We're talking about the last 30 years, but then before that, right? There are so many ruptures. How do we live well, right? How do we make sense, make meaning, make a meaningful sort of something where I can say, okay, I'm solid, I feel solid, I'm good, right? And to move forward, that's what we want to do. I mean, that's what I want to do. And how do we have the frameworks legally, ethically, communally, right? Relationally, how do we have the frameworks in order to do it in a way that is safe, that gets us from point A to point B? That's what I'm interested in. Les autres choses là, all the other things, ça c'est pas mon travail.
How hard was it? I mean, okay, but I'm still interested in when someone needs to come and see you.
Mm-hmm.
What is that point, right? If I'm not feeling well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Should I just immediately come to the ketamine center?
No.
When is it the right time? Who defines what that right time is? What level of pain do I need to be in? And who gets to measure that?
Those are really important questions. Huh? I think that, I'm thinking about the level of pain. I'm thinking, there are, levels of imminent risk, right? Like if I'm thinking about depression, for example, and this is I don't know how, do you guys use trigger warnings? No.
We just say what it is.
We say what it is. So when people when people feel
suicidal, self-harm,
yeah, and people have, you can have ideas without thinking about how you go about it. When you start thinking about how you're going to go about it, when it becomes a plan and it becomes more and more concrete, that is like, it goes up in levels of imminent risk. If the person has already attempted suicide, it heightens the level of risk, right? So somebody goes from idea to action. If they've done it once, the level of friction goes down, it's the level of risk goes up, right? So if you are thinking in that way, it situates you. I don't think that it doesn't have to be sort of, I think, okay, so I'll start over my sentence. When you or someone is in that place, yes, come to the ketamine clinic. Otherwise, if we're feeling not well, right? If you're feeling blue or you're feeling very anxious or you're feeling, then I think we have to, for example, I'm thinking about the Kinyinya Referral Center we have here in Kigali, right? Where you can be assessed and then you can be referred to the right place. Ketamine is not a first line medicine.
Why?
Why is it not a first line medicine?
I mean, you've pretty much said that it works really well. That it softens.
It works really well. It works really well when things haven't worked really well. But you've tried other things first.
Why?
It's a good question.
Because again, this is just me. I'm very basic, right? So you've said that very often the feelings of depression or bad mental health is your brain telling you something about yourself, and you not being able to take in other messaging, because all you see, it's concrete. It's that thing. And you've also told me that ketamine allows the brain to soften and take in
the context of
mental health
therapy.
And, yes. So why do I need to go through the middleman and not just go straight to the ketamine and the therapist who will use ketamine? Like, why do I have to go to another level of pain?
It's not another level of pain.
It pretty much is.
No,
it almost sounds like
no. Because the way I've seen it work, the best, the most interesting, or the most would I say useful, or the most impact, let's say, is when people already are in therapy, have done some of the work, there's something that is stuck, they come to us for ketamine treatment and they go back to their therapists. That is the best. That is the best kind of the how do you say that? Like the ideal pathway is that, because it's not a panacea. If you have insight, you have to integrate it afterwards, right? If you understand something, how do you take this understanding and you move it into your life, right? So this moving into your life is accompanied. There's integration, and this part is really important. If you have done therapy before, you've started thinking about what is going on. And then you've hit that, and then that piece then becomes easy to, and then you continue with it and you take it somewhere else, right? It's a process. It's one intervention in a longer process. And that is the when you have people, I'm just going to leave it there. I get really excited. I'm like, yes. And then,
it's weird because, again, you're trying to fight. You're trying to keep it within the mental health argument or the mental health discussion, and the use of what I'd call brain altering substances. But again, the world is it moves. It makes
Totally.
a move. It moves, and you have, like I said, like I started with extremely high functioning global leaders, and they're using ketamine to help them reset their minds, right? It's not because of what you said, it's not within, I went to therapy and this and this. They're using it to, again, when people use it to reset their minds and think better, and because you've said something about its use that I think is really, really interesting, about how the brain is and what certain drugs will do to it, and create new thought patterns,
new connections.
New connections. Now, I hear that and I immediately think optimization, taking the brain to another level, to brain hacking almost. When you hear people like him talking about, because I'm sure you also are listening to the conversations around this, how unhappy or angry are you that this thing that should be used in a certain way is almost starting to be marketed as almost Gatorade for your brain, or something that will, turn you into an even bigger genius? It's moving away from treatment to, again, alongside, all the inventions of the future, robotics, AI, it's becoming that thing that will optimize human beings and optimize how we do things. And it must be slightly frustrating that this thing that that you use to create good outcomes for people is now being taken left.
It's interesting because I sincerely do not think about the only thing that I it's like it gives it a bad name. That's the only thing that where I'm like,
especially if you happen to be Elon Musk and you are on all the podcasts and you own X and you're just pushing this thing.
yes, but I mean, it's like that's not what we're talking about. At least that is not what I'm talking about. Or the team. It's really what I'm talking about. Really, really, really. And I think that what I would really like is that we create good frameworks to hold the work, so that, I mean, it exists. I mean, wine can be served at mass or not, right? Same thing. But it's for what we want to do that it should be protected.
I feel that you're probably going to be fighting an uphill battle because I'm looking at another drug that's, in the news now quite a bit is drugs like Ozempic.
Oh.
Right? And so Ozempic was supposed to be for one purpose. And now, whether it is capitalism, share price, optimization, it's now become another thing.
What does it become now? It used to be for weight loss?
It was supposed to be to help people fight diabetes.
That's right.
Right?
And then it became for weight loss.
Now it's not just weight loss. It's almost, they call it looks maxing.
Looks maxing.
Yeah. Right? So you're maximizing your looks, right? So that's now everything is maxing. So, so ketamine is brain maxing. And now you have looks maxing.
Well, like ketamine, like our model is a therapy-based model, right? It's not always at the clinic, at KTR. It's really, really, that's what we want. But it's not like that everywhere, right? A lot of places use it like where you go in, you get either a shot and then you go out, where there's no therapy to it, right? And that is, to me, a more I don't know how to call that, like a more
dangerous,
like commerce-based model, right?
That's what capitalism will do. Everything will become commerce.
So when we're talking about maxing, profit maxing, c'est ça. Therapy is not a good business model, right? But it's important. Yeah. So, same. I mean, yeah. I'll leave it there.
When, I guess, this is maybe not a discussion that's happening here in Rwanda at the moment, but seeing what, again, the conversations around brain maxing and looks maxing that have already started appearing on normal platforms, right? In the US and Canada, there's very often, in my experience, is that conversations happen over there. Then over time, they come here. So you're having these conversations of people, normal people who might not even be unwell, are now starting to think about using these quote unquote tools
Mm-hmm.
to optimize.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wonder, and it might not be what you see in your therapy, but you're obviously of the world. You consume. You've lived in North America. You talk to colleagues, and you're part of, I guess, you understand the conversations that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a therapist, when you see people starting to believe that somehow they can chemically reboot themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'll take this drug and I'll be better at work.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily I was sick and I need to be able. No. I'll be able to concentrate more. I'll be able to.
People do
work
it all
harder,
the time with ADHD medication,
right? Or even
Mm-hmm.
What are the dangers of people using what should be fundamentally a controlled substance? I think.
Yeah.
What are the dangers? Is it dependency? Is it escapism? Is it avoidance? What are the dangers of us, normal people, seeing what is being put out in front of us?
Mm-hmm.
And why should we not brain max?
Mm-hmm.
What are the dangers of this?
So I'm a big proponent of, people are free. If you want to brain max, go for it. But
Would you do it?
I don't think so. Okay, so I'll start over my sentence. What is interesting is what fuels my need to brain max, right?
Performance.
Right? It means that I feel somehow less than. Can I get at that piece? You know what I mean? Can we talk about that feeling and, get curious about that and sort of, but that's my therapist. I mean, I have a bias, right? So if it's work, right? It's looking at myself and saying, okay, so I feel threatened. And I want to feel more solid. I want to feel more, yeah.
But no one wants to do that work because the work is hard, and all I have to do, why deal with my symptoms? Why deal with my disease when I can deal with the symptoms, right?
Well, I mean, the question is, are you dealing with this? Are you dealing with what is underlying? Like, for example, I'll give you an example, because when you were saying that, I was thinking, oh, ChatGPT, right? I was thinking of AI and how it's so wonderful. As you can see, I'm a big fan of ChatGPT, like of having like this tool where you can bring an idea, right? And you could dictate it, and it comes back in full sentences, and you can shape that, right? So the feeling of, you can ask for sources, you can ask, there's so much that can be done with this tool. And also, is the underlying feeling of insecurity going to go away? Not necessarily. If you take away ChatGPT, can you still have a conversation? Can you still think? Can you still produce? Right? So, it's technology has always been that. I was, in my mind, I was thinking about, there's so many things, in so many ways in which we enhance what we want, our limitations. And also,
but what's wrong with being limited?
thank you. You made my point. That's wisdom, right? when we live well with our limitations, that's wisdom.
You know, we're talking about ketamine. That's what I'd call a modern pharmaceutical, and how it's that tool has made it possible for our brains to do things differently, to rewire. Why is it, you're a Rwandan woman, an African woman, you talk about this substance. Why don't we talk about traditional African plant medicines with the same knowledge, with the same respect? I mean, when you think about our ancestors, weren't they rewiring their consciousness long before Silicon Valley?
100%.
So what's going on there? Like, do we not have those things anymore? Do we not know about them?
Research shows that people still access traditional practitioners. So they exist.
When you talk about traditional practitioners,
here, I'm talking about here in the country.
What some people would call witch doctors, but okay.
I think that traditional knowledges and practices have been delegitimized through colonization and missionary work. I think that, when I'm thinking about psychedelic medicine, there are a lot of things that are traditional, like I'm thinking about that are known, that are traditional from the Americas, right? I'm thinking about ayahuasca or peyote. I'm thinking about here on the continent, the Fang people have Gwiti and Iboga, right? That's been synthesized into ibogaine, right? And now they have these, there's this incredible, huge research project in Texas right now, $50 million of research on ibogaine for addiction and for brain injury, right? To treat that. So you can't take away, like when we're talking about new quote unquote medicines, is it new, or are we finding our way not back to something, but are we weaving with something that's old, something that is present and new for the future?
So because I don't know. I think that's the challenges of being born in this post-colonial Africa. You don't even know about the things that you used to have.
100%.
What did we have?
In
terms of those things that, for example, because obviously the human condition has not really changed, right? So we feel love, we feel depression, we feel fear.
Yeah.
That thing in the brain that, that concrete thing has always been part of our existence.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the softening, I'll go back to that because I think it's a really great example of a practical example of like how psychedelics or mind-altering substances help the human mind to maybe operate better. So these things must have existed before white people came and said, "Oh, take this
molecule in an IV." So I think that we can't dissociate the practices from the worldview, right? Let's say, and this is not me being an expert. I think that there are people that know much more about this, and that is, respect to that. But I think that the idea of, if let's say if we see life and life force, right? Vitality, right? This idea of their intensity of liveness, right? That's not how you diagnose in the DSM-5.
DSM-5, what is that?
DSM-5 is the diagnostic this manual, blah, blah, blah. It's the Bible for diagnosing mental health disorders, right?
And who wrote the Bible?
It's over
The
there.
Mzungus, the whites.
It's over there.
Okay.
So the idea is the world, the view of how I as a human am situated in, in the world with like the land, the people, the everything around me is very different. What liveness means is very different, right? Do we even have the language to conceptualize it the way it was? And I think that if we did, we would be richer. I think that there's dialogue to be had with practitioners, with people who still work with these ways, right? There are things, for example, I'm thinking about like this idea of prophecy, like seeing, right? People, that was part of there were people who saw, there were people who would know your lineage, right? How useful is that? Like if, let's say, you know your parents, your grandparents, and then, but somebody who can reconnect you into the social tissue, because they know your lineage, this is you. What that does to a person, right? Like situating, contextualizing, right? So how do we contextualize? If let's say I say, and this is me thinking, like if I say my what is not going well is an imbalance between the dimension of the dead and the dimension of the living, right? It means it has all kinds of other connotations, right? It's a whole different way of
Seeing
being,
the world.
yes, of being in the world. I can look at it in a very sort of, square way, or I can look at it in a symbolic way with the kinds of things that it carries, right? Because what they're doing is they're describing something. If you work with a person who is suicidal, right? Suicidality, for example, it feels a lot like, because it's a very like it takes over, right? It's like something that takes over, and then the person is not themselves anymore, right? That's not a clinical term, right? But the way it feels is like they're in this place. When they get out of it, they'll be like, oh wow, that was. So when we use words like, are they possessed by that other part, right? When we're talking about like approaches in psychotherapy, we're talking about parts work, for example. These are ways of conceptualizing things, that saying like there are different parts of me and I can work with those different parts of me. It just means that I'm taking a distance from something, and I'm making it so that I can understand it and I can manipulate it and work with it. So if we understand our old ways as ways to understand, what could they teach us? I can't even. There I get upset.
Yeah. I mean, that's a thing with colonialism, is that you don't even know what you lost.
Exactly. And you can't improvise yourself. Like these knowledge that this is lineages, this is time, this is,
to create the person that you are. I think there's gonna have to be, I think, I don't know how much in the sector that you're in, where there's conversations around the decolonization of your sector of medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you said, I don't know whether there should be similar treatment between, say, a Rwandan and an American. We're not the same. We don't see the
100%.
same. We don't have the same genetics. We don't have. We're fundamentally very different. We see the world differently, and yeah, it might. There. I think there needs to be, and hopefully, hopefully there are deep conversations around that.
Mhm. There's a
And-
really interesting conversation happening. Like, I think that there are interesting conversation happening around, for example, indigenous use of medicine and the biomedical model, right? Like there are,
So
I think
the way
that, yeah,
we used it and the way
ceremony, right? Like ceremony and clinical work is not the same, right? And sometimes one will negate the other. I think that there's a lot of work to be done there. I'm thinking there's a really interesting sort of group that is forming, that is thinking about an African perspective on psychedelic assisted therapies.
and even that word African
Yeah.
is also problematic because again, you're not trying to tell me that someone in West Africa is the same as someone in Southeastern Africa,
No, these are all conversations,
right?
right?
No, they're super important.
It's exciting. I find that this is why this is such interesting medicine, right? Because you're at the when we're talking about psych, you're at the intersections of life, living, meaning,
and for that place and time.
Yes.
Because that definition changes.
Yes.
Let me ask my last question. Our life experiences make us who we are. In my life experience, the suffering has, I believe, played a larger role in how I see the world and even how my own brain developed than, say, quote unquote, the better times. Now, if pain, suffering, challenge reshapes the brain, can reshape the brain into something, should we be trying to use psychedelics to maybe rewire the brain? Or is some suffering meant to transform us?
Yes. So no, I was being facetious. I'm sorry. Because, and it's not really appropriate because you actually are talking about the knowledge or the what we gain through the struggles that we face and come out of on the other side, right? It's hard earned, right? So it's not something to play around with. Is this so? I hear the question as, is this almost in vain? Should we struggle or should we just sort of rewire? And I keep thinking about, I think the what we want is discernment, right? What builds us and what harms us? And it can be a creative tension, but what we want is discernment. Is there suffering that was not necessary? Maybe. Did it create something, when we are who we are and we like the things that we are, maybe we wouldn't change how we got into being who we are. Now, are there things that block what we need to be? Can we work with those things? Can we, that's the piece that I find interesting. And then also I'm thinking about our children, right? What are the things that I received that made me who I am, but that I don't necessarily want to pass on? And then it creates this question, but can I pass, if I don't pass them on, are they going to be as quote unquote solid as I am, for example, right? And I think it's context. It's context. I think resilience is created in context, in relationship to the context. And they are going to develop the resiliencies then that they need to live in their environment, in their reality, right? It makes me think also about questions at end of life, for example. You look back and you want to feel like what I did had meaning, right? I would hesitate to say, no, it didn't. I would be cautious against that because you don't want to take apart meaning. It's okay. So I'll start another sentence. I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in the thing. I'm thinking about this idea of post-traumatic growth, right? Saying this hard thing made me into something better. There's a part of it that's true. You can make something mean something, right? You look back on it and you say, this thing has made me stronger, right? Does it mean that it necessarily had to be? We know that's not true. We know that's not true. You didn't need to live through horror in order to be. You lived through it. This was the circumstance. Now, what do we do with that? How do we live appeased with the things that have happened, right? And create the best we can. I think that's where I would go. I think that, a lot of people here have suffered a lot. And anything that says, suffering is good, no, I don't think suffering is good. Suffering happened. It happened. Now how do we carry it in ways where we don't become hard, where we don't become cynical, where we move forward, right? In good ways. We honor what has happened, the pain that has been, needs to be honored, but does it, and this is a very personal thing, what do we want to define us,
That's deep. That's deep. Dr. Lisa Ndejuru, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
This was great.
Thank you.
And keep doing that very important work that you're doing. I think there's a lot of need in this society, especially in the Rwandan society. There's a lot of pain and burden that people are carrying. And you keep working those miracles because we need them.
Not miracles. Everybody's doing the work, right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, BK Arena, for providing a venue for the long-form podcast to record. BK Arena is Rwanda's leading multi-purpose venue and the go-to destination in Kigali for world-class events. Known for hosting international concerts, major sporting events, high-level conferences, and large-scale productions, BK Arena offers premium event venue alongside modern conference and meeting rooms designed to global standards. From corporate gatherings to cultural and entertainment moments, BK Arena is where Kigali hosts its biggest experiences. Keep up with them at BK Arena on socials and visit their website, bkarena.rw.